Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Cámara Peruana de Comercio Exterior, to our lectures in English. I hope everyone is having a great weekend and everyone is safe and is taking necessary precautions to avoid getting sick. And also with all the political instability, also stay safe and take necessary precautions just to avoid having any problems. I want to welcome you to these lectures. As you know, these are lectures based for business English. We mention topics explained in the English language, but and sometimes we're going to have general English classes where we're going to explain more grammar, vocabulary. Although we're always going to include some vocabulary in almost all of our lectures. So let's begin. What is our topic today? As you can see, the name of our topic today is trends, graphs, and figures. So we're going to talk about some vocabulary related to graphics and trends and figures and how to interpret them. Okay. As you know, I follow your questions through Zoom and also through Facebook. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible. Okay, so as always, my name is Carlos Martinez Flores. I'm an English instructor and also a speaking coach. I'm a former team leader at Pacific University and currently I am an EFL teacher at Mate Purisima School. Okay, so let's begin. Here we have the different types of charts. Okay, each chart has a different name. Normally, their name is very easy to deduce depending on the type of chart that you're using, and each chart also has a different reason or motive to use. Okay, so the first chart that we have here, this chart that we have here, it's a circle. It's very obvious. It looks like a pizza. Like it looks like a pizza pie, and that's where its name comes. It's a pie chart. Okay, we're going to explain briefly each use for each chart. Okay, the next chart that we have is the bar chart. Okay, as its name says, it has bars. It has bars. We've seen many of these bar charts nowadays when we see the quantity of COVID infections around the world. The next chart that we have here is this one here. As you can see, we have three here. We have three columns, right? So this is a column chart. Okay, again, all these charts have different specifications. We're going to talk about them very briefly as we go by, but first let's name them. Okay, so the first one is the pie chart. Then we have a bar chart. Next, we have a column chart. This chart here, even though that you don't see it here, but almost all these charts have these axes, the x-axis and the y-axis, which we are going to mention in a bit. The next chart that we have here is the line chart, okay? Because as you can see, even though we have dots, these dots connect and they form a line. The next type of chart that we have here is the area chart, okay? So these, as you can see, the different areas with different colors, they represent quantities and numbers. The next chart that is similar to the pie chart, but as you can see, has different areas here. This is called, it looks like, since it's early in the morning, you might see it. It's a donut chart, okay? It has the shape of a donut. This is the correct spelling of donut, by the way, not the one from that restaurant that we have here in Lima. But this is a donut, okay? And each area represents a certain data. The next chart that we have here is a bubble chart. As you can see, we have bubbles, and each bubble represents also a certain quantity in a certain moment. The next that we have here is a spider and radar chart. Okay, we see this a lot of times in where we have for example, when you evaluate your language skills, okay, or your mental agility, okay, so each area represents a certain ability or skill, and this is how advanced you are, okay, how much you have progressed in the area. Okay, here we have two different values that are being represented. Of course, as you can see, maybe this spike here represents a certain ability or skill that is in this certain level, whereas this spike represents another ability or skill that is in lower level. Okay, so I've seen this a lot in when we evaluate abilities or skills. The next one that we have here is a scatter chart, because the word scatter means that it is all over the place. Okay, so this is information that is scattered. Um, this dot represents something, this dot represents something, each dot represents a certain quantity, a certain amount, certain information. The next one that we have here is a comparison chart. Okay, so we have here in this column, we have certain data, and on the top column, we have certain data, and then we just cross them. So for example, this arrow here matches this data with this data, so we check it. Okay, the same with this one. For example, this information here only matches with 2 of the 4, whereas this information here matches with 3 of the 4. Okay, so this is a comparison chart. The next one here is similar to the bar chart, only that we have the bars are stacked. So this is one bar, this is another bar, this is another bar. So we have 3 bars in one measure, or in one that share the same data. The same here, notice the green is one bar, the purple is another bar, and this light blue is another bar. So the bars are stacked. Here we have only one individual bars. Imagine that you took these 3 bars and you align them one in front of the other, and then you will have them stacked. Okay, and then finally is the gauge chart. Okay, nowadays we see this a lot when we measure our internet speed. Um, or how well your hearing is. Okay, so if you're in this area, it determines something. If you're in this area, it determines something, and if you're in this area, it determines something. Normally, if you are in this area, it's not so good. Okay, because the gauges are usually used in when you measure pressure, when you measure like in automobiles and stuff like that. Okay, so it goes from good, average until not good. Okay, so this is the representation of a gauge chart. So these are different types of charts that we can use, and now I'm going to tell you basically when we use them or why we use them. Okay, again, we're not going to go into too much details, but we're just going to explain certain relevant information or general information about charts. First of all, why do we use charts? Okay, the first is to present distribution. Okay, how things are distributed. Okay, so distribution charts lay out how items are distributed to different parts. The best chart to use for this type of data are line charts, histogram charts, and scatter charts, which illustrating items correlation amongst others. Okay, so how things relate. Okay, so this line represents something and this line represents something. So, oh, look, this line goes up, this line goes down. So we are comparing them. Okay, we are saying how they are being distributed. Okay, so we use charts to present the distribution, how things are distributed. Next, to visualize the compositions. 3 types of charts benefit for visualizing the composition of an issue. It is obvious that pie charts are designed to show the composition of different parts of a pie, as different parts of a pie can represent one composition, and a whole pie is the completion of an item. Area charts and stacked bar charts can also be visualized by different color areas for visualizing composition. So, how things are formed. For example, let's say of a pie chart, 100%, 50% is this, and then 25 is for another thing, 25 is for another, and they form the whole pie. Okay, so this is to visualize how things are composed, how things are formed. Next, to show the relationship. Among all the data, it is of vital importance to find the relationship between the data, okay? So spider charts and bubble charts are the perfect choice for analyzing the relationship, as they contain relationship of one data variable to the whole group of other variables. Like I said, for example, the spider chart, okay? Normally they represent skills. Okay, imagine the circle, the spider web is a skill, speaking English, for example. And then one of the lines, the blue line will represent your speaking, the green line will represent your listening, the green another colored line will represent your writing, and finally your reading. And you can see the relationship. Maybe your speaking is higher, so it's going to be longer, and your lowest ability is your writing, so it's going to be the extension that it has is going to be smaller. So you're going to see, oh look, in this activity, in this ability, you have more skill than in this one, without even reading it, because you just see the chart and you can see where it extends the most. So you're finding the relationship amongst different abilities. Okay, so like I said, in this case, the spider chart will be the one, the best representative. Okay, so the first three that we're going to mention, to talk about how things are distributed. Second, how things are composed. And the third is to show how they are related. Okay, so to talk about distribution, the best to use are line charts, histogram charts, and scatter charts. To visualize composition, the best one will be the pie chart, but we can also use the stack bar charts. And to show the relationship, the best one is the spider chart, but bubble charts are also important there. Okay, and the next two is to indicate a trend, is to indicate, okay, what is a trend is like another word for trend is fashion. Okay, but in this case, we're not going to talk about fashion, but a trend is how is it normally going? Okay, how is something moving? Is it going up? Is the trend going up? Is the trend going down? Maybe the trend is that it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. So it's going to tell us how things are moving, how the information is being represented. So when you need a chart to indicate the trend of series um, in a fixed period, that means that, for example, in a year, what was the movement of the price of the dollar in during the pandemic? So we'll go from, let's say, from March until now, until November. Okay, so you have a fixed period. It's not infinite. Okay, in this, it can be monthly, weekly, yearly, quarterly. It depends. Okay, there are two basic charts for this, and it's the column chart and the line chart. Both charts show the changing trend with different differences of data. You can also combine them into one chart called the Pareto chart, which is better for knowing relevant trends. Okay, so you can combine a line chart with a column chart, and you got the Pareto chart. Um, and like I said, it shows the movement of information in a period of time. Okay, it shows the movement of information in a period of time. So to indicate trends, the best ones to use are the column charts and the line charts. That's why, for example, when you get your electricity bill, you have a column chart that tells you how much electricity you have been using monthly, and you can see the trend. Oh, look, no, I normally use a certain amount of electricity. Okay, so you can see the bars or the line like steady. But for example, maybe for some reason, one month you went too, I mean, all the way up, you peaked. Then you could say, okay, something's going wrong, something's wrong. Not the trend is for it to be stable. What happened? Why is it going up? Or the opposite, why is it going down? So the charts that will indicate trends will be line charts and column charts, because they tell you what is the normal movement of certain data. And finally, to compare. Okay, most charts are created aiming to compare data. I mean, basically all, because are used to compare data. Comparing functions help you visualize mass data, as data always appears with large quantities. Divided into two parts, different items can be compared by a bar chart, a column chart, a Six Sigma chart. Six Sigma chart is the one that you have the top row and the column, and you match where they cross. Okay, for example, one item, how many of the different columns do you check? Okay, the next item, how many of the different columns do you check? That is the Six Sigma chart. And a spider chart, well, one fixed item can be compared to different times, like line charts and column charts. So you can see, basically all of them are used to compare, okay? But it depends on what you want to compare. So these are the five, like I mentioned before, these are the five usages for charts: to present distribution, to visualize composition, to show the relationship, to indicate the trend, and to compare. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to show you a mind map of how things, uh, what do we use them for? Okay, which chart to use? For example, if you want to indicate trends, you use line charts or column charts. Okay, these are the two most popular that you can use when you want to indicate a trend. Okay, the how the information is moving. Okay, we use line charts, as you can see here. This is an example of a line chart, and we have column charts. Now, when you want to compare things, we can compare things, and we can compare um, how things are moving in time. Okay, to compare just things and quantities, amounts, we can use bar charts. You can use a Six Sigma chart, like it's here. We can use a column chart, or we can use a spider chart. But when we want to compare how things are moving in time, along a timeline, then we're going to use line charts and also column charts. Okay. So these are the indications for when to use a certain chart. Like I said, if you want to indicate a trend, if you want to indicate how the information is moving uh, um, normally, then you will use either line charts or column charts. When you want to compare, you can compare how different quantities, but also how it is, what is the relationship of that information with time. So if you only want to talk about quantities or you just want to compare things, then you're going to use bar charts, Six Sigma charts, column charts, and spider charts. And finally, when you want to compare how things move among time, you're going to use line charts and also column charts. Okay, so it depends on what you're going to compare, what you need to see. For example, if you want to see uh, again the price of the dollar, then you're not going to use a spider chart. Okay, because you want to indicate a trend. So you're either going to use a column chart or a line chart. If you want to see with the relationship between two things, then you're not going to use a column chart. You're either going to use you're not going to use a line chart. You're going to use either a Six Sigma chart, a bar chart, or a spider chart. Okay, so each chart has its different indications and its different uses. Okay, so here I'm only mentioning some. I'm going to mention some more again here. For example, when you want to represent distribution, how things are distributed. Okay, like we mentioned before, right? We mentioned the five. Remember that we mentioned the five uses of the charts. We said that to indicate trends, to compare, to present distribution, to visualize the composition, and to show the relationship, right? We have the five. So we already mentioned indicating trends and comparing, and now we're going to talk about distribution, composition, and relationship. When you want to, for example, use a chart to present distribution, you're going to use line charts, you're going to use scatter charts, and you're also going to use histogram charts, okay? Histogram charts are similar to bar charts with some certain differences, um, okay? And then we have also to visualize composition, we have three different ones, right? Give me a second here. Okay, so we have to visualize composition, we use pie charts, stacked bar charts, and area charts, okay? Um, so these are the most common when we want to visualize composition. Yeah, okay, back to my Facebook closed. Okay, so remember, if you have any questions or comments, I really use Facebook. So again, let's recapitulate. To present the distribution, we're going to use line charts, scatter charts, and histogram charts. Okay, to visualize composition, we're going to use pie charts, stack bar charts, and area charts. And finally, to show the relationships of things, we're going to use scatter charts and bubble charts, okay? Um, the difference between a scatter chart and the bubble chart is here, a scatter chart, it's more for specific information, and bubble charts is for a, a quantity of information in a certain moment, okay? So a scatter chart is basically not one information, but unique information in a specific moment. Bubble chart is like a certain group of information, a pack of information related to moments. Okay, very well. So these are, again, when you want to talk about how things are distributed, line charts, scatter charts, and histogram charts. To talk about how they are composed, pie charts, stacked bar charts, and area charts. To show how they are related, bubble charts and scatter charts, okay? So here we have talked about the 5 uses of charts, like I said before, to indicate trend, here, these two, line charts, column charts. To compare, we can use, depending on what you're comparing, if you're comparing the relationship between items, we have these 4, bar, sigma, column, and spider. And to compare the relationship with time, line and column. Then to talk about how they are distributed, we use line charts, scatter charts, and histograms. If we want to talk about how they are composed, pie charts, stacked bar charts, and area charts. And finally, to show how they relate, we're going to use scatter charts and bubble charts. So basically, these are the 5 uses of charts, and I've tried to mention the most common chart, because then they're all there. You know, we have word maps, we have, I mean, different types of charts that can be used, but these are the most common and the ones that are basically the most used in these 5 different situations. Okay, now as I said before, every chart has its parts. Okay, so basically the charts have these 2 types of distribution. So for example, in here we have a column chart. Okay, and for example, it says population of birds by state. So every chart has a title. Every chart has a title. In this case, it's population of birds by state. In this case, in this pie chart, the title is the cost of an education, breakdown of average cost per student expenditures in dollars for public education. So this is the title of the chart. Every chart needs to have a title because you need to know what you're talking about. Okay. Also, see, you have the title here, title here. Every chart needs a legend. Okay, so the legend needs to tell you what you're looking at. For example, here, the purple bar represents certain information, robins. The purple bar represents another, some more information, and the little, let's say, what is that, cream colored bar, it represents another bird. Okay, so each bar represents a different bird according to this legend. So I can see the relationship. For example, in Alabama, the robin is covers this amount, whereas this other bird covers this other amount, and finally the jay is the lowest of them all. Notice how in Alabama and in Arkansas there's a change in trends. Okay, so but how do I know that this represents a bird and this represents another bird? Because of the legend. Okay, so the legend is telling me what each bar represents. Now the pie charts also have a legend, just and this is like I said, this is common for all the types of charts. Okay, all the types of charts. For example, the legend in this chart means that this orangey color means instruction, the green one means support services, and the light blue one means non-instruction. So I just look at the pie chart and I know what each one represents. Okay, very good. And then now this type of chart has axes. Okay, whereas the pie charts don't. Nor there are many charts that don't have axes, like I said. But that's why it's not represented here. But they all have this information, okay? And one thing that is not in this one, but it is in this one, is the source. You always have the source. Where are you getting this information? Here, it's not stated, but it normally is under the chart. You're going to see the source, okay? It's going to tell you where this information came from, because I cannot invent the chart because of whatever I want. I need to use, I mean, normally you have objective and numerical data that you're going to transform into a chart. Now, pie charts and some other charts don't have axes, but normally these charts do. You have the y-axis, which will be the ones that goes up and down, and you will have the x-axis, which is the one that will go left to right, okay? And then you have the axis titles. For example, what does the x mean? In this case, the x means state. What does the y mean? It represents the percentage of popular votes. Okay, so each axis has its name, and they are called the axis title. And these are called the axis titles. Okay, and then the axis labels is what each line or dot represents. In this case, for example, it says the percentage of popular votes. So the axis label says, okay, this is 0%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40, 50, and 60%. And then we have the x-axis labels, which is, for example, this area represents Alabama, this area represents Alaska, this area represents Arizona, and this area represents Arkansas. Okay, so we have the x, like I said, the x-axis with each axis has a name, the x-axis and the y-axis, and then we tell you what each things represent. Okay, the y-axis in this case is percentage, but it can be numbers, it can be quantity, it can be whatever you want. It depends on the information that you have. And then the y-axis labels also. In this case, it represents North American states, four of the United States. So this is how the different types of charts move and represent. Okay, so notice how these bars is data and this quantity is data. So we are, in both cases, we are representing data, information, quantities. Okay, and they represented in different, like I mentioned before, each chart has its own purpose and its own use. So you need to only know what you need it for. Okay, very good. Let's continue. Now here are some words that we use that can be used to describe or when we talk about charts. So we have words like, for example, um, increase, steadily, high, improvement, remain, steady, rise. So here are many words that are used when we talk about charts. Okay, and what we're going to do is that some of these words are verbs, actions. Some of these words are nouns, things. A noun can be a person, a place, a city, or a thing. We have some of these words are adjectives, that describe. Um, Adverbs and adjectives are words that give characteristics or descriptions to things, okay? Qualities, but adjectives give qualities to nouns and adverbs give qualities to actions normally, okay? So again, we have verbs, which are actions, nouns, which are people, places, cities, or things, adjectives and adverbs, which are qualities, adjectives of nouns and adverbs of verbs. And this in this column is that they can be both, okay, or they can be two things. So of these words, we're going to collocate them. For example, some verbs, we have the verb improvement, okay? It's to improve. We have fluctuation, okay? We have a bottom. And then nouns, we have climb, fluctuate, improve, jump, collapse, rocket, remain, reach, grow. Adjectives, steady, dramatic, substantial, constant, stable, adverb steadily, sharply, significantly, and which can slowly, suddenly, gradually, and they can be both parts of speech. Increase, verb and noun, drop, verb and noun, decrease, verb and noun, rise, verb and noun, plunge, verb and noun, surge, verb and noun, peak, verb and noun, high, which can be an adjective or noun, and low, which can be an adjective or noun, okay? Okay, here there's was a typo. It should be, this column should be the verbs, and this column should be the nouns, okay? I apologize for the typo, okay? Because remember, verbs are actions and nouns are things, okay? So improvement, fluctuation, bottom, these are nouns. We have the verbs climb, fluctuate, improve, jump, collapse, rocket, remain, reach, and grow. Okay, these are verbs that are commonly used when we talk about charts. Climb means that it's going up, it's climbing, like climbing a mountain. Fluctuate means that it goes up and down, up and down. Improve means that it's getting better, it's getting better and better. Jump, it's like, for example, it was at this moment and then all of a sudden, bloop, it went up to another, it jumps, you know. Collapse is the opposite, when it's normally it's high or it's up and then it goes all the way down. Rocket, it means that it's going up but very quickly. Remain, that it stays in a normal number. Reach is that when you collocate yourself an objective, you want to reach this month. You want, maybe your objective is 10, so it's going slowly up, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 up to 10. Then you reached a certain level. And grow, it's like plants, you know, they start to grow from little to big. um, Improvement, the noun improvement means that it's getting better. Fluctuation, again, that's it's not steady, it's going up and down, up and down. And bottom, it means that you're in the bottom, okay, you're not on the top. And then we have adjectives. Again, adjectives and adverbs depends what they're affecting, but steady means that it's constant. Dramatic, it's something, I mean, something very big, it depends. Substantial means important. Constant means that it doesn't change. And stable is similar to constant and steady. And these are the adverbs. Steadily, sharply. Sharply is like, I mean, like quickly, same as rapidly. Significantly means important. Slowly, you know what it means. Slowly comes from slow. Suddenly means, I mean, for surprise, suddenly. Gradually means little by little, little by little. And then we have increase, you know, an increment. Drop is the opposite of increase when it goes down, the same as decrease. Okay, only the difference with decrease is that it's a higher pace. We have rise, it goes up. Plunge is to like drop, but even worse, plunges. And surge is like rise, but even faster. And peak is like the highest point. Again, the same as high, and the opposite of high is low. So these are some words that we can use when we describe graphs. Okay, because when you read it, when you see a graph, you interpret it. You tell somebody what it means. Graphs are not just pictures. They tell a story. Okay. They tell a story of how something is moving. For example, in January there was a growth, but then in February there was a plunge. I mean, it went down very quickly, and then in March it steadily started to go back up. So charts tell a story. They tell you how something is moving. They're not just pictures. Okay. So these are some words that we can use when we read a chart. Okay. Very good. Now, some words can represent go up and some words can represent go down. For example, we have increase, fall, decrease, climb, drop, decline, lift, and rise. Now, which ones go up? For example, increase. Increase means when something is going up. Then we have also climb, something is going up. We have rise, again, something is going up. And finally, lift. All these expressions means that something is going up. The opposite will be, for example, fall, it's going down. Decrease, it's going down. Drop, it went down very quickly. And decline. Okay, so these are expressions that we can use when we want to express, when we want to read a chart, and we want to say that something or things were going down. Okay, so remember, charts are not only pictures, they represent a story or information on how data is moving or how data is reacting. For example, nowadays with the political instability in our country, many things are moving like they normally don't. I mean, since because of the instability, because of the uncertainty, prices are increasing. Okay, things are going up. If you go to a market or a supermarket, all of a sudden, although the increment has not been very significant in some things, there has been an increase, and there is no economic problem that was that mm, that that could have told us that this was going to happen. It's just the political situation. The dollar, it's climbed, it's climbing, it's climbing, okay, because of the political situation. Okay. So we can these expressions are used to express a story and to express how things react and interact, or as we mentioned before, how they relate, how they combine, how they compare. Now here we have some, arrows, but each arrow means a different thing. Okay, each arrow represents how something is moving. Okay, we have the y, we have the y-axis here, and we have the x-axis here, and we have the different ways things can move. Okay, and here are some expressions of what these arrows mean. Okay, so these arrows represent an expression. Now, what do they represent? Some of them represent, as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arrows, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have 10 expressions for 6 arrows. That means that some arrows will represent more than one expression. So let's say the first one, fluctuate. When you see a line that moves in this form, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, it's a fluctuation, okay? It's a fluctuation. It's going up and down, up and down. Next, we have this one, increase sharply. Notice how this arrow, the angle is high, so it's increasing. I mean, it's increasing, but it's in a sharply manner, quickly. Then we have an increase slightly. This angle, notice that this line here is like basically in the middle. This one is going up, but not as much as this one. Okay, this arrow is not moving as fast as this one. So this is a slight increase. Okay, this is a slight increase, whereas this one is a sharp increase because the angle is higher. And you see, look, this one is basically in the center. Okay, it's not moving nor up nor down. It's just in the center. So this remains steady. Okay, it remains steady. Next, notice decrease. Now this is the opposite of increase. Okay, it's going down, but the angle is not so much. So it's decreasing slightly. It's a slight decrease. But notice the last one. This is the opposite of this one here. This one is the opposite of this one. The angle is high, so increase sharply. This one, the angle is going down. So this is decreasing sharply. Okay, it's very quickly. It's going down. But now we also have 4 more that can relate to these words too. The first one is go up a little. Okay, so increase slightly can also be expressed with it went up a little. Slightly, a little bit. It went up a little. The next, drop sharply. Okay, so decrease sharply can also be said drop, because drop is to fall. So it dropped sharply. It went down very quick. Stay the same is remain steady. Okay, stay the same. It stayed the same. And let me go back. And so, and go down slightly is this one here where it says decrease slightly. The arrow was missing here. So decrease slightly is also go down slightly. Okay, so we have the different expressions. Notice how these arrows, if I don't know how to read charts, I only see lines and I don't know what they mean. But when I read a chart, I can give it words. I can give it expressions. Oh, the numbers are fluctuating. Okay, 10, 9, 7, 6, 3, 2, 1, 10. So it's fluctuating. It's increase sharply. Okay, the numbers were normally 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 10. Okay, it increased sharply. Increase slightly. Okay, maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So there was an increment, but it was slight. To remain steady, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The growth is steady. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's going up. To let's say the next one here, to decrease slightly or to go down slightly. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. So it's going down slightly. But when it drops sharply, again, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom, 2. It dropped too quick. It went from 6 to 2. It was too quick. Okay, so notice how now we're giving interpretation of each line. Okay, each line tells a story. And so it's important to know how to read these lines or how to read the movements. Well, these are lines, but I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to clarify this information. I don't want to say that you're always going to see lines, because for example, if it's a bubble chart, you're not going to see lines. If it's a column chart, you're not going to see lines. But these lines represent movement, okay? How they move. For example, in a column chart, maybe you have a column here, a column here, a column here, a column here, a column here. So they're not even. But all the columns are the same size, then they remain steady, for example, okay? So you have to know how to interpret it. These lines represent the type of movement, okay? And sometimes you're going to see the lines, like in the line chart, but sometimes you're not. But you need to be able to interpret how they're moving, up, down, a little bit down, a little bit up, etc. Now we're going to go a little bit of grammar. When we talk about an action that is in progress, we're going to use the present or the past. For example, sales are rising strongly at the moment, in the present. Past, sales were rising more strongly last year. So this is when we talk about actions in progress. When we want to look back, talk about the past, from present to the past, sales have risen by 6% this year. When we want to talk about a past, two things in the past, but one before the other, we can say sales had risen to a high level, but in 2006 the market began to change. Okay, so notice that here we're using the present, here we're using the past, but here we're using present perfect, and here we're using past perfect. Had risen. Here have risen present perfect. And looking back at an action in progress up to a point in the past. Sales had been rising strongly, but then new competitors entered the market, okay? So something was happening in the past until a certain moment. And then action in progress up to now. Sales have been rising in all the major markets. That means that they started in the past and continue now. So this is how we can apply grammar to how we read charts, okay? For things that are happening in the moment. When we want to look back, when we want to compare with something in the past, and when in this case, um, when we want to say that something started in the past, okay? Again, we use the present and the past for things that are in progress. We use present perfect and we use past perfect for things that when we want to talk about past references. And we use past perfect continuous, have been rising, and present perfect continuous, have been rising. When we want to talk about, for example, the first one, past perfect, something was happening until a certain moment in the past, and present perfect, something started in the past and continues up till now, okay? Of course, this is not really relevant like for like what I'm saying, the grammar, but it's good to know that we can use the grammar to express certain ideas and they mean different things, okay? Very good. Now here are some expressions that we can use to express proximity, okay, when things are getting close. For example, a great deal more than and way over. That means that the number, I mean, the if something is here, then something is here. How proximate they are, the difference is very big. So a great deal more than and way over. Now, when it's not that much, we say somewhat more than and well over. Okay, somewhat more than and well over. This is when the difference is a little bit higher. Okay, just over or slightly more than. That means that the difference is very little. The difference is very, very little. And around, about, roughly, somewhere in the region of, and approximately. So we're not sure, but I mean, okay, say for example, to talk about the people, the population of Peru, we'd say it's around 34 million. Okay, so I'm giving you an approximate, roughly 33 million. Okay, or somewhere in the region of 34 million. Okay, so when we want to say approximate numbers, okay, and almost, nearly, not quite, just short of, this is the opposite of just over and slightly more than. For example, let's say that your line is 100 and you have 102, 103, that is just over. But the opposite will be 98, 97, almost. Okay, again, your base number 100, 200, a great deal more than. 150, someone more than. The opposite, 40, far less than. Okay, so these expressions are used to, I don't need to say, without saying specific numbers, I can tell you how proximate they are. A great deal, there's a big difference. Somewhat more than, it's a little bit more. Just over, the difference is very little, positively. Around is an average, I don't know the number specifically. And then we have the two less that are in a negative area, okay? Almost, the difference is little, but in a negative way. And far less, the difference is big in a negative way. Okay, far less than, nowhere near, nothing like, and as much as. Very good. So these are words to express how proximate things are. Okay, very good. And now we have some opposites. Okay, for example, we have rise, raise. Okay, pronunciation rise, raise, take off, expand, fluctuate, and peak. And then we have the opposites: plummet, be flat, bottom out, fall, lower, and shrink. Okay, now these are words that are opposites. For example, the opposite of rise, plummet. Rise, plummet. Okay, rise, plummet. Now we have raise, fall. Okay, raise and fall, raise and fall. Then we have takeoff. The opposite of takeoff, lower. Okay, so a takeoff is like when like the planes, they take off, they go up, you know, and lower is the opposite. Expand, shrink, expand, grow, 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 shrink, decrease, expand, shrink. You know, when you put your clothing in the washing machine and you put it into the dryer and then it shrinks, you know, or like my clothes have shrunk because of COVID. Fluctuate, fluctuate, you know, it goes up and down, up and down. Okay, and the opposite is be flat. Fluctuate up and down, flat. And finally, peak and bottom out. Peak is like when you reach the top, 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 and bottom out is when you reach its lowest point. Okay. So here we have reviewed charts again. This was not a class for us to explain everything about charts, but to use the English language to refer to the way charts are used, how they're used, expressions that are used when we interpretate the chart, okay? And how charts tell a story. They're not only pictures that are there to fill out pages or just because somebody wants to collocate them there. No, charts, they tell you a story. Charts charts are representation of information. For example, if you give me a paper with quantities, I can create a chart depending on what I want to say. Okay, for example, if you give me a data of, let's say, the sales of two items, let's say of item B and item A and item B, and you have the numbers, their sales in each month, in January, February, March, April, May, I can make a chart to show you I mean, the difference between the sales of A and B. Maybe if I look at the numbers, I see a lot of numbers, thousands and thousands. I mean, I don't know what is the difference, but if I collocate it in the chart, I can see maybe the sales of A is here and the sales of B is here in January. But then in February, they changed. Why? What happened? What happened in February? Why did B go down? Okay, now I'm not looking at the numbers. I am representing the number with a chart. I can see, or with a line chart, I can see that A is going up, 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 and then it went down. What happened? Oh, in this month was when the quarantine started. Oh, this was March and April. Okay, so oh, that's why I was thinking that maybe I had done something wrong. So with this chart, you can find explanations, you can represent ideas, you can tell a story. Okay, so our next class on Monday, we're going to start talking about presentations and structures and key phrases, how to make a presentation and expressions that you can use when making a presentation. Okay, so this will be on Monday. I hope to see you there. Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 9 in the morning. Thank you for your time. Again, I hope everyone is fine, everyone is safe. I hope everyone is taking care of themselves. And everyone is taking care of themselves, and everyone is trying to stay healthy. I know we are going through a difficult moment in our country. Whether or not you're in favor or against the political situation of what's happening, first of all, it's a matter of working together to pull through, to come out of the situation, because it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the people who are in favor or the people who are against. It just damages everyone. Okay, so just be level-headed, think straight, and if you want to go to the protests, it's your free will. But please be safe, take care. I don't wish anybody to be injured or end up in hospitals. Or we remember that we have family and people that care of us about us that will be worried. Okay, so thanks again. My name here's my email, my WhatsApp account, and my LinkedIn account where you can contact me and ask me any questions, or if you want further details for about the topic. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time, and I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.